turn to the campaign trail now and the presumptive presidential nominees who had very different reactions to the massacre here in Orlando. Hillary Clinton focused on gun control. Donald Trump, however, reiterated his belief that a temporary ban on Muslims is the only way to keep radical jihadists, as he put it, out of the United States.
They enslave women and they murder gays. I don't want them in our country. Immigration is a privilege. And we should not let anyone into this country who doesn't support our communities, all of our communities, every single one of them.
Inflammatory, anti-Muslim rhetoric and threatening to ban the families and friends of Muslim Americans, as well as millions of Muslim business people and tourists from entering our country, hurts the vast majority of Muslims who love freedom and hate terror. So we should be intensifying contacts in those communities, not scapegoating or isolating them.
To discuss this perhaps unavoidable politicization, we welcome now John Allen, columnist for Roll Call. He joins us from the CBS News Washington Bureau. Again, John, we heard those two different reactions. Hillary Clinton, again, espousing a call for gun control measures, whereas Donald Trump pushed a Muslim ban that in weeks previous he had, in fact, looked to step away from at one point, saying that he had only meant it as a suggestion. But obviously the words are much harsher now as a presumptive nominee. What to make then of these two very different positions?
And really what you heard from Donald Trump yesterday was an expansion of his previous policy, because he talked about banning people from coming into the country if they come from places where there's a history of people who commit acts of terrorism coming from. So a bit of an expansion on that earlier policy. Look, this boils down to a Trump approach that says crack down on immigration, crack down on Muslims in the United States, versus a Clinton approach that says beef up law enforcement, beef up intelligence, create alliances in the Muslim community in the United States and abroad to try to get better intelligence. And these are really two competing views of how to deal with the situation that will be before voters, I imagine, between now and Election Day.
What are the dangers then, as the two candidates speak to what happened here in Orlando, but of course do it through the prism of policy positions they would take? What is the potential danger then for the politicization of this issue?
Well, we've seen it all around already, even in the House chamber yesterday. The politics of this coming to the fore. House Speaker Paul Ryan shouted out by Democrats who wanted to try to bring up gun control legislation in the House. In terms of a danger of the politicization, I mean, what you get is a lot of divisiveness, a lot of division. Donald Trump talking about Muslims in the way that he has, according to his critics, will lead to it being more difficult to get Muslims who are law-abiding citizens to be helpful and to be partners with the government in terms of trying to prevent acts of terrorism, and also trying to get other countries abroad, Muslim nations that are allies of the United States, to be helpful in the war on terrorism abroad. That's a danger on that side. On the Democratic side, Republican critics of Hillary Clinton and President Obama say that they've been too lax in some ways, and in particular that they don't appreciate the threat and what the Republicans say is the reality that it is mostly coming from Islamic nations and people who are Muslim in the United States.
And John, quickly, it was a day that we also saw Donald Trump insinuate, perhaps, that President Obama is something of a sympathizer with terrorists and terrorist elements abroad. It then came on the same day, as our Nancy Cordes has reported, that the Trump campaign then banned the Washington Post from its covering the campaign and and would refuse official cooperation with the paper. Have you ever seen anything quite like this?
I've seen reporters excluded from campaigns before, or particular publications that a member of Congress might not speak to. I haven't seen it on the scale that the Trump campaign is doing it, not just with the Washington Post, but with several other news organizations that have been excluded from Trump rallies and have not been able to have contact with the Trump campaign. It is extremely unusual. And it fights the concept of a fair and free press, because basically this is retaliation for Trump not liking what's written about him, even when what's written about him simply quotes him.
John Allen, columnist for Roll Call, we very much appreciate the time.
Take care.